Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to Wonder Snatch. Today we're going all pink and blue, okay, because I'm going to talk about being transgender in Singapore. I'm not transgender myself, but I do know some transgender people, and recently in the news, Singapore has not been the best for transgender individuals, alright? So I'm going to talk a bit about that and a little bit of history of being transgender in Singapore. If that's something you want to see, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and ring that bell for post notifications. Alright, let's get started. Alright, brows are gone. Let's just prime my face now. Okay, so I think anyone in Singapore will know that recently there was this huge case, okay, about a transgender girl who's attending a school in Singapore, and she was just about to embark on hormone therapy, okay, for her transition, and she got her parents' consent to do this and also her diagnosis from a psychiatrist. Apparently she was given a lot of trouble at school. Okay, I'll talk more about this later, okay? In Singapore, being homosexual is still illegal, so you can imagine what transgender people feel. Transgender people are even more pushed to the side and even more invisible. I must admit, I'm not very close friends with a lot of transgender people. I did have a very close transgender friend once, okay? In Singapore, we all have to do national service, okay? We're all in the army. And in my camp, there was a transgender girl. And she and I were really good friends, okay? Her name was Nicole, and we went out for lunch every day. And she was really fun, and she was very bubbly, and she was very pretty. I still wonder where she is now today. And Nicole, if you're watching, I'm prettier than you now. Alright. Okay, so I've mixed up some foundations. Pastel, pink and blue. I think I'm going to do a blue base today and then everything else in pink, okay? And this is actually inspired by this artist, Christiana Gabriele, okay? Really, really beautiful. Okay, so I'm just going to go in first with, okay, there's going to be pink cheeks and everything. So I'm just going to do, how to do this? Okay, let's just get this big cap on. Yeah, so, you know, being in the army in Singapore, it is a bit of a hotbed of toxic masculinity. So I think Nicole was very lucky to be in the camp that she was in because I think our bosses really took care of her and they're really protective of her. There were some times where it looked like she was having trouble with doctors, maybe family or something, but we never really discussed things into that depth. I'm going to start off the base with some white. Really going to try to keep the pinks and the blues distinct, okay, so we don't end up with too much purple areas. I want the pinks and the blues to be really, really distinct and separate. So I'm just going to go in the highlights with white first, okay? We'll add the other colours later. So a little bit about the history of being transgender in Singapore. Singapore is actually the first Asian country to ever perform sexual reassignment surgery, or as it's known now, gender affirmation surgery. Okay, it was pioneered actually by some plastic surgeons and gynecologists in Singapore. This was, I think, 1971 was the first surgery done here. I think around that time, it was probably quite a feather in Singapore's cap. So the policies for gender affirmation surgery was actually quite liberal at the time. And they even set up gender identity clinics and in a national university hospital, and they had collaborations between gynecologists, psychologists, and plastic surgeons to help people who with gender dysphoria. So it was quite progressive at the time. And there were several prominent psychiatrists who specialized in gender dysphoria in the 70s and 80s. A lot of people used to come into Singapore to get their surgeries, okay? And this actually led to quite a vibrant transgender scene in Singapore. Okay, in Singapore, I think most people would have heard of this very famous street called Bugis Street. Okay, Bugis Street was where there were lots of nightclubs, bars, even this place called the Boom Boom Room, which was a drag cabaret, which is very popular in Singapore. Okay, completely missed it, past my time. Okay, but they used to have drag queens, transgender people performing all the time. Okay, and people used to come in from all over the world to Singapore for this Bugis Street experience. Okay, so now with that done, I'm first going to go in with the pink. Okay, a little bit of the pink, just as a blush area. Okay, tell you what, I'm just going to get rid of this shirt first. Okay, use the other side for the blue, and the blue I'm just going to fill in all the other bits. So there was even a movie about Bugis Street done, okay, in Singapore. I think it's a Hong Kong movie. Maybe I'll do a review of the movie on this channel at some point. Yeah, it was a very vibrant scene, and apparently at the time, there was quite a lot of gender diversity there. So, you know, Singapore was at one point very progressive and very liberal with these things. We even at the time had transgender models on local fashion magazines. So that's mapping out. I can intensify the colors later with powders. Okay, let's get these face tapes on for now. Okay, whoops, sorry. It wasn't filming. Anyway, I put on these and drawn some eyebrows. Yeah, so Bugis Street used to be a really amazing place, okay, before my time. And apparently the gender diversity was something to behold. All these progressive things sort of died down. Use this pink bit. I'm just going to blend this out a little bit. So this is just a base, a quick sketch. I'm just going to quickly powder now with my no color. Try not to mix the colors too much. And also in the 80s, the gender identity clinic started to become less effective, okay? The psychiatrist who pioneered it retired and no one seemed to want to take up the cause. And also it's getting much more expensive to get the gender affirmation surgery. A lot of the plastic surgeons who did the surgery started going into private practice, okay? And that's usually much more expensive. And the government started to clamp down on people transitioning, on subsidizing the care of transitioning, of people who are undergoing gender transition. So it's actually much cheaper to go to other places like Bangkok for a gender affirmation surgery, and that's what a lot of people did. And in Singapore, because there's a lot of discrimination against transgender people, a lot of these people were shunted into sex work, okay, like most places in the world, okay, and a lot of them ended up in places like Desker Road, Orchard Towers, where there are a lot of transgender sex workers. In Singapore, actually, prostitution is legal, okay? So all prostitutes have to be registered and they undergo regular STI checks, okay? These are usually for the cis female workers. A lot of the transgender workers also fall into the cracks because they don't want to be in the government system. So a lot of these people end up being the illegal trans workers and their healthcare is not well taken care of. Now I'm using my ColourPop in a trans palette, perfect because it's got these pastel blues and pinks. Okay, I'm just going to color in all these blue and pink areas. Okay, using a very fluffy brush. Yeah, I did get a lot of ColourPop over Christmas. Okay, and this basically intensifies the blue base that we put on earlier. Yeah, so transgender people, I think in Singapore, they don't really trust the medical profession. In Singapore, it is possible to change your gender, okay, on your identity card, but only after you've had sexual affirmation surgery. I think we realize now, being transgender is a whole spectrum, right? And you do not have to undergo the entire transition, the entire surgical and hormonal transition to identify as transgender. You're transgender if you identify as transgender, if you think that your gender does not reflect your physical gender. I think that's a little bit of an archaic law, okay, which we can improve on. Okay, so now the blue base is done. Let's make sure it's blended. And now with a different fluffy brush, I'm going to use the pink. This one called Daydream Bibby. Daydream Bibby. Okay, I think I'm going to need some other pinks. What other pinks do I have? Alright, I'm going to use this Midas Cosmetics Flower Bomb. There's a whole bunch of pinks that I can use to contour and to start on my eyes. Can you use a little bit of the darker pink? Pocket right there. Contour with some pink too here. See, when it mixes too much, that's when it becomes lilac. Okay, yeah, so in Singapore, recently, there was this case, okay, about this transgender girl, Ashley, who was attending school in Singapore, and she was about to start on hormonal treatments, okay, for her transition. And apparently, she was blocked at every step by her school. And the school was imposing a lot of very unreasonable demands. They wanted to make sure that she kept her hair short like a boy and only wore boys' uniforms, and said that if she started transitioning and couldn't fit in the boys' uniform, she would have to be schooled at home, okay? So basically, really disrupting her education because she was transitioning. When she felt that she didn't have any more recourse, Ashley actually went to Reddit and posted a whole bunch of stuff there that blew up and got a lot of media attention. All of Singapore's LGBT community have rallied behind her, okay? Even Action for AIDS has signed this letter of support for Ashley. Okay, using the pink, I'm just going to deepen up the brows. The Ministry of Health subsequently actually released a statement denying all these things happened, okay? That they don't stand in the way of medically appropriate transitions, okay? But in their statement, they purposely misgendered Ashley. Okay, this was quite shocking, okay, because this press release must have been vetted by several people. It must have been a conscious decision to actually misgender Ashley, okay, which is very traumatic for her, and basically shows the ministry's stance on the issue, okay? And recently, when a whole bunch of transgender youth decided to go and protest, they were actually arrested, okay, and took into custody. They're all on bail now, okay, but in Singapore, you need a permit to do public protesting, okay? So they were actually arrested for protesting. But never mind, I think that's all part and parcel of protesting. They were prepared to get arrested, and this actually gives more visibility to the cause. So good on them, they were very brave. Okay, in Singaporeans, it's not really in our DNA to, shake the boat or anything. So I'm very, very proud of these people who managed to get some trans activism done in Singapore. I'm just going to keep using this pink. I don't know how this look is going to turn out. Hopefully it'll be pretty. I really enjoyed my asexual flag look, okay? And I think a lot of people did too. If you haven't checked it out, I'm going to put the link right there. I'll probably work through all the different flags at some point. But I think talking about transgender issues is really important now here in Singapore. I think it's quite interesting. All around the world, transgender people have become the latest punching bag. In my other videos about transgender people, I did mention, okay, that transgender people are the latest punching bag, okay? In other parts of the world where homosexuality is becoming a little bit more accepted, the conservatives seem to be latching on to transgender people to bully and to oppress. Okay, good thing that Biden has recently struck down Trump's transgender military ban. Okay, there's still a lot of work to do. Okay, in the UK, unfortunately, the High Court just ruled that people under 16 don't have enough self-awareness to consent to puberty blockers. Okay, puberty blockers are basically slightly different from hormonal therapy. It's basically medications that pause puberty, okay? It's not irreversible, okay? It just pauses puberty so that the child can explore, okay, more gender expression and to see whether they really are transgender, okay? Once you stop this medication, puberty resumes like normal. It's not like going for full-blown hormonal therapy where you actually have permanent changes in your body. In fact, puberty is a permanent change, okay? A lot of transgender people see puberty as this irreversible process, okay, which is almost like this unstoppable biological process that changes their body permanently. This is actually what causes a lot of distress in transgender people. So that's why puberty blockers and hormonal therapy and counseling with a qualified psychologist is very, very important. I'm gonna get this pink prize from my Morphe purple pink palette. There's a lot of fear and a lot of misinformation when somebody hears puberty blockers, right? It sounds like a really strong drug and really irreversible, but no, puberty blockers are actually reversible, okay? And essential in the journey of a transgender individual. Going in with a smaller brush using Boulet to the crease. Bring it down the nose, the darker color. Whew, okay. Let's cut that crease. Okay, got some Rumor Zero. Okay, I'm gonna set this on the outside with some of this pink. Wing it. Yeah, so in Singapore, there are some charities and non-profits for transgender people. The T Project is very active. Okay, they provide shelters for transgender people and help them find jobs and everything. There is a very good interview on the Love Streams, okay, my brother's Instagram live podcast with the person who runs T Project. Bring this to the under eye. You can go to transgendersg.com, okay, which is a project by Sayoni, another women's charity in Singapore, which provides information for being transgender in Singapore. Okay, but by and large, there's very little information and very little education about transgender people in Singapore. Most people, I'm sure, have not met any transgender people, and I must admit, I don't know that many myself. Going in with pink prize just to blend this into, yeah. Okay, and then some of this shimmer. This seems to be more of a topper. It's very difficult not to use black. Okay, I'm going to figure out what else to do with my eyes later. So now I'm just going to paint the rest of this blue. Okay, using my baby blue Maron Paradise paint. Alright, I'm just going to do this bit off camera and I'll be right back. Okay, painted all blue and highlighted a little bit more of the pinks. Okay, now going into the whites. Okay, I'm just going to highlight center of the face to try to, make it a little bit more woe man. I've decided I'm gonna try to not use black, okay? I'm gonna just try to stick to pink, blue, and white. Without black, it's very hard to, make the eyes look very feminine, but I'm gonna try to do it. I'm just gonna go for it. Okay? Adding some pink to the tip of the nose and also to under the chin. I'm gonna go in with this really dark berry just to deepen up the outer corners. Okay, or maybe even Megan Bank. All these issues really throws the LGBT community in Singapore into the spotlight again. And not only that, okay, I think recently there's been a lot of reckonings. Okay, I think I mentioned all this in my other videos, but I didn't really go into much detail about them. Okay, for one, okay, the Aware saga, okay, that I mentioned, okay, is about the Aware saga. Okay, Aware is a feminist organization in Singapore, okay, that fights for women's rights, okay, equal pay, domestic abuse and all that, okay. And in 2009, a religious cabal of extremist Christian women took over, okay, Aware, surreptitiously, okay, they infiltrated the general meetings and just voted themselves in and got rid of all the feminists who were working for this. And they tried to use this as a jumping off point to disrupt sex education in schools, okay, and to promote Christianity in schools, which is quite horrendous. They were eventually voted out by an emergency general meeting, but I think you should listen to an entire podcast. I'm going to link it down below, okay? It's an amazing podcast. Okay, so that recently has come into light, okay? That was quite a historic landmark for LGBT rights in Singapore and democracy. But unfortunately, there was a little bit of backlash because the government after that actually took sex education completely out of NGOs' hands and it became very conservative instead. So actually, the Christian conservatives saw it as a win for them. Okay, and recently there was this whole thing about the pride flag at this place called Small. Okay, they were displaying a pride flag and a man just walked by and took it and threw it at the counter staff. I talked about this in my last video. Okay, I think there's a police investigation going on right now. I'm not sure whether they've identified the man or whether anything's going to happen to him, but that's really horrible that this person was emboldened to do something like that in Singapore. Okay, and now I'm going to use this pastel pink liner, okay, by Glisten Cosmetics. Draw a pink liner on this side. 377A, Section 377A, the law in Singapore that criminalizes sex between gay men, okay, between all men, you don't have to be gay to have sex with men, is being challenged in the courts again, okay? Recently, my friend, Johnson Ong, recently has gone back to court for hearings. Apparently, the hearings went quite well, and now they're in deliberations. So really hope that something comes out of this. Okay, and the visibility of the LGBT community, I think Singapore really needs to show that it's progressive and accepting of alternative lifestyles. Well, not alternative, but you know what I mean. Of diverse lifestyles, especially if it wants to compete on the world stage. Okay, so hopefully the ruling will be progressive and we're not relegated back to conservative, archaic laws. Going in with another coat. For the under, let's go crazy with some blue. Now, okay, almost done. Now for lips, I'm going to use this Bloom Velouté NYX to line. And going in with my Gerard Cosmetics Summer Lovin'. Blend the sides with some eyeshadow. Okay, and use that topper again. I think I'm done. I'm just going to throw on a pair of lashes and some contacts and I'll be back with the finished look. Alright, and this is the finished look. Pink and blue for trans flag realness. I guess it's a landscape of being transgender in Singapore. I'm not transgender myself, so I can't really speak to the lived experiences. I really encourage you to look up some interviews and podcasts for transgender people in Singapore. I'm going to list them down below. Alright, and also some resources for trans folks in Singapore. If you can, donate to the T Project or to Sayoni, okay? They support transgender people in Singapore. And of course, I'll keep you posted on how the 377A ruling is coming along, alright? Singapore is on the verge of being progressive when it comes to LGBT issues, and I hope we get to see it within the next few years. Alright, so if you like this video, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and ring that bell for post notifications. Alright, I'll see you next time. Bye!